My friends, through what can only be described as the power of money, Cyrene has grown rapidly. How is this possible? Where did this body come from, and why now? These might be some of the questions you guys have, but no. These are all the wrong questions. Why? Because the right answer to all these questions is money. The only worthwhile question we should be asking ourselves is, how is it possible Cyrene is a child of Anosrava while at the same time being a product of the scepter? Now that, detective, is the right question. Look, y'all want me to be honest with y'all? I don't know. Part of me really wanted to end the video right there and just have this be like a 20-second video, but Mama ain't raised a bitch, and through the power of bullshit, I'm sure we'll come up with something that sounds believable. Anyway, naturally, my first attempt at confronting this question brought me to the scene in which we learned Cyrene was a child of Anosrava, and it's when Evernight wiped that term from March's memory.
Let me exercise oblivion one last time, and wipe the name, pure child of Anosrava, from your mind.
And notice alongside March in her 6th phased ice is Cyrene in her own 6th phased ice, meaning she too is a child of Anosrava who is seemingly born or reborn from fully being shattered.
Face your past. When you were born from that shattered lumen flux. When you were buried along with the remembrance's lies.
Now, I'm not going to go super in-depth into the whole child of Anosrava thing, just because we just did in the Evernight video, but, long story short, the mysterious children of Anosrava are all Emanator-level, female, pink-haired Pathstriders of the Remembrance, who again, if Evernight is to be believed, were born from fully being shattered, but even if that's not true, what we can clearly discern from this image at the very least is two of them, March and Cyrene, were at one point in 6th phased ice after being buried by the Remembrance. But surely in order for this to happen to Cyrene, she would have had to exist in the real world. So following this line of thinking, I carefully observed this image to see if I could spot any clues or indicators that point towards the big Cyrene being her real body in the real world, whilst the little Cyrene we came to know is the version of herself that was copied into Amphoreus, or, something along the lines of that. Folks, I found nothing. We only have one image of Giga Cyrene, and the little Cyrene perfectly matches the Ice Cyrene with the, the diamond thing in her hair and this white thing in her hair. So naturally, I then went to make sure Cyrene was in fact a product of the scepter, and I recalled the cutscene in which Lygus, the administrator of the scepter, not only called her by her government's name, but also called her and the others the most outstanding model yet.
Philia 093. No need to feel regret. This generation of Chrysos heirs is the most outstanding model, and you two are the final factors.
So the natural next step would be then to look at Lygus' notes regarding Philia 093, and this is where things get odd. When it comes to every electrical signal or Chrysos heir, Lygus has complete notes on every single one, their track, their prima mobile, as well as a short description. Every single one except Philia 093. He has the track listed, but not the prima mobile, and her description has been completely wiped, as well as one sentence stating she once briefly appeared in the Forgotten Years, but is now nowhere to be found. Quick note, odds are her prima mobile is just love. Now this entire thing could easily be chalked up to the fact that Cyrene and Phainon's plan to stop the Aeronova 33 million times quite literally involved, having Cyrene hide in a corner of time away from Lygus' prying eyes, so she'd either be in the memory zone or the tomb of the 13th Titan, which we know is beyond Lygus' reach. For those wondering about what the Forgotten Years are, Lygus notes, quote, records that are completely missing from Me-13's logs, presenting as blank spaces in Amphoreus' history, never turning readable. These anomalies recur sporadically and randomly across reoccurrences and show signs of increase, speculated to be related to the electrical signal Philia 093 and the invading variables March 7th and Evernight. In the 33,550,337th recursive cycle, all lost records have returned thanks to the Trailblazer. My Trailblazer's name is Ella. Upload action at the Great Tomb of the Nameless Titan. Notice the two beings who he claimed had some sort of connection to all these forgotten years, were Philia, Cyrene, and March and Evernight, children of Anosrava. Now what's even stranger about Lygus' notes are that about the ripples of past reverie, which we know refers to Cyrene.
Yep, named Cyrene. It means ripples of past reverie. Easy to remember, right?
Again, these notes are completely wiped out. Now, where this whole, Cyrene thing becomes even stranger is how she fell onto the path of the remembrance in the first place. As a child of Anosrava born from Fuli themselves, one would assume, someone of her level wouldn't need the gaze of Fuli to walk down the path, yet it's been stated multiple times that Cyrene was gazed at by Fuli.
We still don't know the role they play in Amphoreus, but if Cyrene accidentally stepped onto the path of remembrance, then her sacrifice wasn't just for resetting the cycle. I have reasons to suspect that Fuli's gaze once swept over this world before the scepter completely fell into destruction, and that Cyrene basked in that divine gaze. Cyrene encountered the Eon's gaze and regarded them as the hope to continue her world.
This lady, she's just a can of worms, huh? If she merely encountered Fuli's gaze so that she could keep recording the stories of Amphoreus for Fuli's garden, then, why did she become an emanator of the remembrance? In this moment? Let's not forget, one of the biggest questions regarding Amphoreus is, who is the emanator level entity for the path of remembrance?
Do you still remember how 3 paths are said to intertwine in Amphoreus? That 3 entities, each comparable to an emanator, left their marks in this world.
There's Xandar, Iron Tomb, and...
That's right. To this day, there have been no signs of the entity corresponding to the remembrance. The Garden of Recollection was curious about that too. So the Memo Snatchers spent an unimaginably long time chiseling out a tiny channel to peek into this world. But there was always a power in the memory zone that kept them out. And when March 7th's consciousness was seized, it was a ripple of the remembrance that protected her and sent her in here.
Can I assume, then, that this hypothetical emanator of remembrance was consistently protecting this world from the Garden's eyes until the Astral Express arrived?
That's correct.
Now, given when March wound up on Amphoreus, she was nearly tricked by the Garden, but then saved by Cyrene, all in the memory zone, mind you.
Wait, that was you? Pushing the gate away? Sending those warnings? Yep.
Odds are the emanator of remembrance Evernight was referring to here was Cyrene, but again, how? Did the earlier gaze from Fuli really turn her into an emanator? The answer is seemingly yes. Is that the police? Justice! In an optional piece of dialogue, Don Hung gives us a bit of context about emanators.
Most of the time, a gaze is simply a natural phenomenon, though some Pathstriders regard it as a supreme honor. An emanator, however, must possess power granted by an Eon's blessing.
An Eon's blessing. Keep note of that term when you listen to what he later says.
Fuli's blessing will not disappear as long as this process keeps going.
I knew their gaze never left. As long as I record every page of this story and tell it to you, Amphoreus won't be forgotten.
Interesting, but even if this does explain how she became an emanator of the remembrance, how does this explain how she became a child of Anosrava, one born from the remembrance and at one point in 6th phased ice? I have no idea, but y'all want me to be honest with y'all, like dead honest? She lying, bro. She lying, man. She lying. We seen Evernight, diddle everyone's memories. Now, Cyrene... Yep, that's right, she's lying, dog. She threw herself into the experiment to record all the memories for her master Fuli, changed Lygus' memories, deleted her own records. Yeah, she lying, dog. That's how she did it. She lying, goddamn politician. Now, to be fair, I guess Evernight was sort of deleting everyone's memories with oblivion. So how would Cyrene be doing it? With the power of love!